important is sex in the 80s? Does it make or break a relationship? Well, we'd like to hear your views for a future programme of Where There's Life. Ring us on Leeds 456 710.
It's your last chance to pocket half-price savings in Queensway's massive spring clearance.
There's no better way than Queensway.
Hello. Oh, I can't stop. I'm off to Woolworths to win a fortune in the £1 Million Family Game. It's ever so easy.
Get your Woolworth Family Game ticket at the checkout. Rub off the silver panels, and you could win an up to £10,000 prize.
And you could collect up to £10,000 or more.
Just by matching the pictures on your £1 Million Family Game card.
Oh, you've already been to Woolworths.
Woolworth £1 Million Family Game now on. There's £1 million in prizes at Woolworth.
Once you put this on, it's on for years. No other well-known exterior paint will look as good as long. That's the ICI acrylic in it. Goes on smooth. Seems to shrug off weather. And if the job's worth doing, Dulux Weather Shield. It'll be years before he needs a new coat.
If you're buying from the trade, go to Asger. Asger offer you one of the widest choices of ladies' wear, children's wear, menswear, knitwear, and bedding, all competitively priced. Visit Asger Monday to Friday 10 till 8 or Sunday 10 till 2. At Asger, we look after the trade only.
Over 66,000 punctures. Over 500,000 ignition, engine and carburetor faults. Over 100,000 recovered vehicles. Last year, the red, white and blue assisted over 1 million stranded motorists. The RAC, better by miles.
Yorkshire's newest Citroen dealer, Galway Smith of Huddersfield. Citroen's newest car, the BX Top Car 84. Test drive it at Galway Smith's, Queensgate, Huddersfield. Over on Channel 4 now, the toast is to comedy. Cheers, and an eccentric artist comes between Sam and Diane. And that's followed at 10:30 on 4 by Sex Matters. While here on YTV in just over half an hour, Jack Regan's daughter seems to have been kidnapped, and that becomes a particularly difficult case for the Sweeney. That's at 10:30. This is Yorkshire Television, and now we join Alastair Burnet, I should say, and Martyn Lewis with tonight's news at 10.
Mr. McGregor finds realism talking to Mr. Scargill. Mrs. Thatcher tells the summit, inflation's still the enemy. The Sikhs throw petrol bombs at Birmingham and Liverpool. The police chief suspended over misuse of funds. And Mrs. Reagan makes friends with another Republican elephant. Good evening. The miners' president, Mr. Scargill, met the coal board chairman, Mr. McGregor, near Edinburgh today, and they're meeting again early next week. The Miners' General Secretary, Mr. Peter Heathfield, who was also at the meeting, said the talks were constructive and an important and welcome development. Mr. McGregor said he was listening carefully to his friends in the NUM, and a degree of realism had entered into the discussion. Both sides had been saying they thought the talks would break down, but the discussion over what really makes a pit uneconomic apparently went well enough to encourage another session. The union also said it had a problem over pits in central Scotland. The Scottish Miners' President, Mr. McGahey, said later there'd be no sellout over pit closures.
Both parties have been anxious to squash any premature optimism about progress in today's talks, the third in the series. But one encouraging sign is the miners' leader, Arthur Scargill, is meeting face-to-face again with the coal board's chairman, Ian McGregor. Their personal dislike for each other has proved a stumbling block, and Mr. McGregor didn't attend the last talks. At least this time, both sides have come away with something to think about.
Well, it was, shall I say, useful, and I would say that there's a degree of realism entering into the discussions.
Does that suggest you're anywhere near coming towards an end of this fight?
I wouldn't want to make any predictions.
Will both you and Mr. Scargill be attending the next session, whatever?
I don't know about him, but... Oh, I'll be there. I'm
Realism
never far away, let's put it that way.
Was there any sign of movement from either side?
I don't think we can comment on that.
Was there anything in the
talks were useful. The talks were useful. I think our friends understand more fully the problems that the industry faces and the realities that we all have to cope with. And we have to cope with them jointly.
We got a response from Mr. McGregor and the board, and I think the talks went very well.
Have they offered to...
I think Mr. Heathfield here would agree that at least we're meeting, we're talking, there are approaches, and people are talking to one another. That's helpful.
Has the board agreed to soften its approach on pit closures?
I wouldn't answer for the National Coal Board whether they softened or not softened. I'm saying the talks were useful. At least we met and discussed.
The central issue remains pit closures. Mr. Scargill stuck firmly to the line that there won't be any unless they've run out of coal. At today's talks, the board's believed to have offered what could amount to a new plan for coal. Its basis would be substantial investment in new productive pits, a repeat of the guarantee there'd be no compulsory redundancies, and, to meet the miners' crucial demand on pit closures, the board would take a more flexible attitude on what was defined as uneconomic pits. And there'd be special treatment for central Scotland. The very fact that the miners have gone away to reflect on the new offer and that both sides will meet again early next week, probably before the union's executive meeting on Thursday, indicates some ray of hope. Both sides must be worried at the prospect of a long and damaging strike, and there's concern within the NUM that perhaps Mr. Scargill's totally uncompromising line is not the best way forward. Elsewhere, there were no major incidents on the Orgreave Coke Works near Rotherham. Some 500 pickets were heavily outnumbered by police, and coke lorries were able to leave to supply the Scunthorpe steel plant. But despite yesterday's decision by transport unions to step up their support for the miners by blacking oil supplies to power stations, there was no disruption.
The Lord Chancellor's office has rejected a claim by the Kent miners, Mr. Malcolm Pitt, that magistrates were being encouraged to use bail conditions to frustrate the strikers. Mr. Pitt was kept in custody for nearly 3 weeks before being fined £100 yesterday for obstructing a policeman. The Lord Chancellor's office said it would be improper for the Lord Chancellor to seek to influence the exercise of judicial discretion. No such attempt, the office said, had been made.
The Economic Summit in London heard from the Prime Minister, Mrs. Thatcher, today that the strategy against inflation was the right one. Recovery had made welcome progress, and preference should be given to third world countries like Mexico, South Korea and Indonesia, which had shown how confidence could be restored. The Chancellor, Mr. Nigel Lawson, said the American budget deficit meant high world interest rates. It was simple-minded to think otherwise. The American Treasury Secretary, Mr. Donald Regan, said, "Please send me your evidence." France's President Mitterrand said there could be no serious treatment of the debt in third world countries without a drop in American interest rates. He wanted a breathing space for the third world. The heads of government passed a declaration of democratic values. The German Chancellor, Herr Kohl, is believed to have wanted it extended to call for the Soviet Union to return to the nuclear arms talks.
Long before the bigwigs arrived at Lancaster House, everything, even the early morning milk float, was being checked. Telephone engineers went down manholes, army dogs went sniffing for explosives, policemen took up their rooftop positions, security cameras were switched on, and Mrs. Thatcher, in charge of the summit, got there at 8:15, much earlier than everyone else. With the press let out of the starting gate, the leaders arrived and quickly formed themselves into the world's most prestigious traffic jam, to the evident horror of the US Secret Service. The traffic arrangements weren't the day's only hiccups. A serious disagreement broke out over the plan to release a declaration of democratic values. Why had so general a statement of principles been released? Why not? Snapped British officials, whose idea it first was. Sir Geoffrey Howe attempted a rather more constructive answer.
This is the 10th in the series of economic summits. It does coincide with the 40th anniversary of D-Day. It's a time when the coming together of the people who attend the summit who were, of course, on opposite sides during World War II, deserves to be underlined in this way, and where their common commitment to freedoms which we enjoy deserves to be emphasized in the context of East-West relations.
One of the keenest supporters of the declaration was Mr. Trudeau of Canada. This is his 7th summit, and he looks as though he's had enough of them. But Chancellor Kohl of West Germany, whose special meeting with Mrs. Thatcher, originally planned for tomorrow, was brought forward to this evening, was reported to be angry that the declaration hadn't been far more thoroughly tied into East-West relations and the lack of democracy in the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. It's been easier going on the economic front, with the leaders agreeing with Mrs. Thatcher's remarks this morning that the 7 nations are following the right strategy for economic recovery, and, said Mrs. Thatcher, we all intend to stick with it. But the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Mr. Nigel Lawson, has confirmed that there have been disagreements over the Americans' claims that their budget deficits have nothing to do with high American interest rates.
And there is ample evidence. The attempt to prove that there is no connection is an attempt based on a very simple-minded correlationship between the budget deficit and interest rates, irrespective of what's happening to the economic cycle at the time and so on.
Tonight, the heads of state and government took, well, half a break. An evening at the National Portrait Gallery was a chance to admire some fine pictures, but over dinner there was more political discussion. Among the problems were disagreements over what they should all say about international terrorism. Michael Brunson, News at 10, at the Economic Summit.
Police investigating the disappearance of baby Louise Brown are tonight trying to trace one of her uncles. The parents, Paul Brown and Susan Pullen, are still being held in custody. Police believe they and another couple may have stayed at a Brighton hotel the night before 15-day-old Louise was reported missing.
The missing baby's father, Paul Brown, was brought to Putney Police Station this morning. He was questioned for more than 2 hours about the disappearance of his daughter and his earlier statements that she'd been stolen from the family car. His common-law wife, Susan Pullen, who was arrested with Brown yesterday, is also still in custody and has been questioned at length by detectives. The police investigation is now centred on this hotel near Brighton. The day before baby Louise disappeared, 2 couples checked in here. One couple answered the description of Louise's parents. A hotel receptionist has told the police the 2 men in the party were in a very dirty condition. The receptionist was driven to London this evening and watched 2 identity parades at Wandsworth Police Station, where both Louise Brown's parents are being held. Based on the receptionist's evidence, police tonight are still searching for the second couple who booked into the Brighton hotel. The man is believed to be Paul Brown's brother, Ian, who left home earlier this morning, leaving his own 4 children in the care of a relative. Paul Davis, News at 10, Wandsworth Police Station.
Police looking for the missing 7-year-old Mark Tilsley are still questioning a fairground worker. The boy was last seen at a fun fair near his home in Wokingham in Surrey a week ago. Today, police reconstructed his last known movements.
Just before 6 last Friday, Mark Tilsley set off for the local fair alone, as he had done many times before, and today a local boy reenacted his movements to try and jog memories. Mark was next seen sitting on the wall of the local supermarket car park, and shortly after that, padlocking his bike at the entrance to the fairground and walking in alone. From then, it's anyone's guess. Mark loved the fairground, and he could have looked at just about everything. The last time he was seen there was standing just outside the Dodgems, though a close friend says he saw him cycling home at about 10 to 8. Yesterday, police visited the Royal Cornwall Showground at Wadebridge and flew a 33-year-old fair worker back to Berkshire. He's still helping them with their inquiries.
A violent and mentally sick man released from Broadmoor 8 years ago deliberately killed a 16-year-old total stranger in the hope that he would be sent back to the top security hospital. A court at the Old Bailey heard that the man, Andreas Diomedes, walked into a McDonald's at Peckham in South London and stabbed one of the staff to death. Diomedes admitted manslaughter, but Broadmoor have said they don't want him back. The case was adjourned so that a secure hospital place could be found.
The Chief Constable of Derbyshire, Mr. Alf Parish, has been suspended over what's said to be the unauthorised use of police funds. A special meeting of Derbyshire County Council heard how Mr. Parish had allegedly spent £28,000 on improving his office without proper permission. £4,000 was said to have been spent on armchairs and another £1,400 on a desk.
A leading QC and solicitor accompanied Mr. Parish to today's special meeting of the Police Committee. Over 6 hours, Labour councillors accused the Chief Constable of breaching financial regulations by spending sums of more than £5,000 on furniture such as desks and chairs without their permission. Members heard Treasury Department reports on spending at Force Headquarters ordered after Mr. Parish refurbished his office suite last autumn. The 53-year-old Chief Constable was first to emerge from the meeting, breaking the news of his own suspension.
I've told the committee that the thing will be fought all the way.
What's your reaction to the decision?
I think it's a perverse decision.
Driven back to his office in Derbyshire, there Mr. Parish was asked to clear his desk and leave the building. Afterwards, he insisted he'd been the victim of a left-wing vendetta.
There are political ramifications of this, and I've expected this from the beginning. In fact, I have ample evidence to show that right at the outset last October, councillors in Derbyshire were crowing that the Chief Constable would be replaced in a few weeks, and they are still set on that course.
Councillors have now instructed an independent tribunal to review Mr. Parish's case. In the meantime, the Chief is suspended on full pay. Mike Morley, ITN, Derbyshire.
Sikhs throughout Britain have been protesting about the seizure in India of their most sacred shrine, the Golden Temple of Amritsar. Here, demonstrators threw bricks and stones at the Indian High Commission in Liverpool, and a policeman was slightly burned by a petrol bomb. 2 Birmingham offices were also hit by petrol bombs.
In Birmingham, petrol bombers attacked a travel agent for Air India early this morning. The front of the shop was smashed and the interior extensively damaged as the flames spread rapidly before being tackled by firemen. No claim of responsibility has been made, but the shop owners feel that being agents for India's national airline made them targets for Sikh extremists. In another part of the city, an Indian bank was also petrol bombed, but no damage was done. In Liverpool, a crowd of 200 Sikhs converged on the Indian High Commission near the city centre. Tempers flared when they were not allowed to get too close to the building, and 3 policemen were slightly injured when missiles, including 2 petrol bombs, were thrown at them. The tension eased when a small delegation was allowed in to register a formal complaint at the Indian government's handling of the Amritsar situation.
It's now thought that at least 500 people died when Indian troops moved into the Golden Temple to flush out the Sikh militants. Mrs. Gandhi has defended the operation as unavoidable. Jane Corbin of Channel 4 News is in New Delhi. We've just had this satellite report from her.
The atmosphere in Delhi's old city today has been tense, but so far there's been no repeat of yesterday's rioting, which claimed 3 Sikh lives. The police have drawn back from the Sikh temple, where the men were killed, but they're ready to move in if required. Outside the temple, Sikhs shouted, "Bhindranwale is a martyr. Hundreds will spring up to take his place." Prominent moderate Sikhs have turned against the government. Khushwant Singh is a member of the Indian Parliament and ex-editor of the influential Hindustan Times. Today, in disgust, he returned a government award he'd won some years ago. He's written extensively on Sikh history and culture and says Indira Gandhi's action, violating a shrine, is unprecedented in Indian and in Sikh history.
Mrs. Gandhi is left with no one to talk to now. The Akali leaders were the only people she could talk to. They are not going to talk to her for a long time to come. And in any case, she locked them up too. Who is she going to talk to?
Sikh extremists are continuing to burn and loot Hindu businesses outside Amritsar, as they were earlier this week. 10 people have been killed in retaliation for the deaths at the Golden Temple. Sikhs claim the death toll in the Punjab is now 1,000. The army says it's nearer 300. Jane Corbin, News at 10 in Delhi.
The old Allies had their day in Normandy on Wednesday, but men from German regiments have been going back for reunions too. And today they remembered their dead at the big cemetery at Lecombe. A report next. Plus, a pop night for the Prince and Princess. And secured for the start of another season, it's Tommy Doherty again. That's in a couple of minutes.
So easy you could grill 'em, that's the way to really fill 'em in lamb and beef and chicken too. So many ways to treat 'em, in the summer you can eat 'em at a barbecue. As a midweek meal they really appeal in lamb and beef and chicken too. Full of meat, so nutritious, decidedly delicious in lamb and beef and chicken too. So for goodness sakes, give 'em all their steaks in boxes of 6 or 4 or 2 in lamb and beef and chicken too.
Will you try this for me, Mr. Conway?
Sure. What is it?
If I tell you, I don't think you'll like it.
Ellis, am I not open-minded, liberal, and free-thinking? I'll like it. What is it?
Try it, then I'll tell you.
Well, tell me, and then I'll try it.
Please?
Say, that's wonderful. That's really nice. What is it?
It's called Tico, a new sherry Harveys have blended specially to mix with ice and tonic.
The sherry that you mix. That's a terrible idea.
Tico and tonic. You may not like the idea, but you'll love the drink.
Every Tetley tea bag's a masterpiece, lads. But here's the original. It's gone. Sydney? That was the first Tetley tea bag with 2,000 perforations that let flavour flood out. Wait, Sydney, you don't have to use the original. Every cup of Tetley's a masterpiece. Tetley make tea bags, make tea.
Just £2.50 is the inclusive price for a full day of fun at Lightwater Valley, with all games and rides free. You'll love the value, the kids will love the action with as many goes as they like. Lightwater Valley, near Ripon, a great family day out. Fantastic value at £2.50, with all games and rides free.
There's a range of cheese spreads from Sunpat. Their fame is spreading from north to south, from east to west, to every corner. A cheese spread is only as good as the things that go into it, and Sunpat is made with real cheese. Spread the taste of mature cheddar, tangy Danish blue, savoury smoky cheese spread. With Sunpat, you taste the spread, not just the bread.
The Germans were unhappy they were not asked to the D-Day anniversary this week, and they made their unhappiness known. Today, at the biggest German cemetery in Normandy, at Lecombe, the Germans remembered their dead, the men whom the historians say fought so well, even though they were well outnumbered.
In stark contrast to the anniversary events over the last few days, there were no milling crowds as the Germans remembered their war dead. As many as 80,000 were killed during the Normandy campaign. 20,000 of them lie here in the Darkstone Cemetery in Lecombe. The remains of many of them, who were never identified, now form a high central mass grave beneath which today's sombre memorial service took place. A few war veterans were there with families, but there were no medals on display, no military regalia, mainly just memories. In his speech, the French Minister for War Veterans said this cemetery served to remind Germany's young men of the horrors of war, the need for peace and friendship. Some needed no reminding. The sheer size of the cemetery at Lecombe was enough to reinforce the minister's sentiments that such a war should never break out again. Terry Lloyd, News at 10, Normandy.
The Italian Communist Party leader, Signor Enrico Berlinguer, is critically ill after a stroke. He collapsed after speaking at a party election rally in Padua. Doctors at a hospital in Bologna, where he was operated on, said he was in a coma, which could prove fatal. Signor Berlinguer has led the Italian Communist Party for 12 years, making it Western Europe's largest Marxist party. He even came close to getting the communists into a coalition government for the first time. He advocated the cause of Euro-communism, advising the party to map a course independent from the Soviet Union's. The socialist-led government of Signor Bettino Craxi scored a major victory over Berlinguer's party today when it passed an anti-inflation bill bitterly opposed by the communists.
The BBC said today that it was ending the 60 Minutes programme that it introduced in the tea time hour last year. It said it would run a national news programme at 6 o'clock, followed by local news programmes starting in August. Journalists employed in BBC Current Affairs objected to the change and held a meeting tonight, which meant that the BBC had to transmit some recorded programmes to fill the time.
Labour's Deputy Leader, Mr Dennis Healey, said today, on the first anniversary of Mrs Thatcher's second election victory, that she'd lied, she'd shown feckless incompetence and a certain sleaziness, and both unemployment and bankruptcies had risen. And he said the Conservative chairman she'd picked, Mr John Selwyn Gummer, was the Titan of Toy Town. This week's ITN job survey shows more job gains than losses. 250 jobs are coming in the next 2 years at Plessy Electronics in Plymouth. Another 350 are planned. 100 at Sharp's bedroom design in Camberley. 80 to 90 by Autoglass windshields throughout the country. 50 by Beefeater Steakhouses in North Weald, Essex. 48 by Canon UK at Oak Bank in Glasgow. And 32 extra staff among Scotland's colleges of education. Among the main job losses this week, 100 at Border Breweries in Wrexham and 70 at Stone International at Crawley.
The Americans have protested to the Russians about harassment of foreign journalists in Moscow. This follows a Moscow court ruling that a British and an American journalist working for the American news agency Associated Press attempted to help a Russian citizen to defect. America's asking the Soviet Union for proof that the dissident scientist Andrei Sakharov is still alive. Yesterday, Moscow told Washington that rumors of Sakharov's death were untrue. But today, the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. George Shultz, said the White House was not sure that Sakharov or his wife Yelena were safe. In Brussels, the street containing the Soviet embassy has been renamed Andrei Sakharov Street, and the Belgians have told the Russians they'll have to use the name to get their embassy mail delivered.
While President Reagan was working at the World Economic Summit in London, Mrs Reagan had a day out at London Zoo with some Bermondsey school children.
Zoos are becoming something of a habit with Mrs Reagan. In the last 2 months, she has been to zoos in China, Washington and now London. Elephants were high on the agenda. Not surprising, really, as they're the Republican Party's symbol.
I was just reminded when we were in Sacramento, we had a baby elephant sent us.
That's her way of...
We like each other. And we gave it to the zoo, but I named it GOP. G-O-P.
GOP stands for Grand Old Party, another name for the Republicans. One of the high spots was Nancy meeting Nancy. The other Nancy, a 2-week-old camera-shy reindeer, named in honour of the occasion. At the picnic, a Bactrian camel sauntered by. There was jelly, ice cream, entertainment, and an engaging visit from a passing ladybird, Mrs Reagan explaining how much they like greenfly. Even the ever-watchful security men seem relaxed on a day visibly enjoyed by all. Only one little boy was bothered. Where was Mrs Reagan's husband?
I talked to her and she told me about his husband, but I forgot what he said.
Do you know who her husband is?
Yeah.
What was she telling you about him?
He's very nice and he's on a meeting.
Joan Thurkettle, News at 10 at London Zoo.
The tennis champion Martina Navratilova is now just one match away from winning the Grand Slam. She already holds the United States, Wimbledon and Australian titles, and today won her way to the finals of the French Open against Chris Evert-Lloyd, beating Hannah Mandlikova 3-6, 6-2, 6-2. Golf, in the Curtis Cup at Muirfield, Great Britain and Ireland go into the second day just one match down to the United States at 4-5. It gives them a chance of beating the Americans for the first time in 28 years. Soccer, the England manager, Mr Bobby Robson, has chosen one of his youngest teams ever to meet Brazil in Rio de Janeiro on Sunday. He's included the Norwich centre-half, Dave Watson, winning his first cap, and the Portsmouth striker, Mark Hateley. The team is Shilton, Duxbury, Watson, Fenwick, Sansom, Robson, Wilkins, Barnes, Hateley, Woodcock and Chamberlain. A very familiar face is back in football management. Mr Tommy Doherty is the new boss of the relegated Wolverhampton Wanderers.
The new manager of Wolverhampton Wanderers Football Club.
So with a typical Doherty gesture, the man who once said he'd had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus moved his league collection into double figures. His arrival at Wolves to join chairman Derek Dugan brings the tally to 10, an extraordinary career that's also seen him manage in Portugal and Australia, manage the Scottish national side and sit in the boss's chair at Queen's Park Rangers on 3 separate occasions, once for just 28 days. The fastest tongue in football started to wag the moment he took over his first club, Chelsea, in 1962. Life's had its ups and downs since then, but he's never lost his appeal as a crowd pleaser and motivator of players. But at 56, why take on the hurly-burly yet again?
Football's been marvellous to me, and I like to be working, if you could call it that, because I think it's enjoyment to be well paid for a job that you love doing. And it's an incurable disease. It's something in your blood that is not curable, and it's part of your life, and it's as simple as that. You've got to have it. It's like a drug.
So how big a challenge have you got now at Molineux?
Oh, vast challenge. But then life's a challenge, isn't it? Football's a challenge. You know, when I've seen some of the games this season in the Standard, you know, sometimes you say something and you get brought up before the bugs for bringing the game into disrepute. I've seen a lot of games, and a lot of the players should have been up before the FA for bringing the game into disrepute as posing as footballers.
The main headlines again. Mr McGregor and Mr Scargill have had talks about ending the miners' strike and plan to have more. Mr McGregor talked of a degree of realism. The miners called the meeting constructive. And at the Economic Summit, Mrs Thatcher has said the strategy against inflation is right. And finally, the Prince and Princess of Wales have been having a lively night out at a gala rock concert in the Royal Albert Hall. It's an annual event. Previous occasions have included the Princess's special favourites, Duran Duran.
In one of her last public appearances before the birth of her second baby in September, the Princess of Wales was clearly going to have a great time tonight, and Prince Charles was staying out of the limelight. Tracy Ullman, fresh from her hit with Neil Kinnock, and Mike Reed were the hosts to many of the Princess's favourite groups. Imagination, for a start, figure high on her list, complete with their outlandish costumes. She met Phil Collins and Sade, but Paul Young was perhaps the one she wanted to see most. She's extremely keen on his music and chatted about it with him for some time. One little girl, though, brought her back from all the razzmatazz. Amy Smith, 11 today, is the organiser's daughter. The bouquet to remind her of all the unknowns still hoping to make it big. Carol Barnes, news at 10 at the Albert Hall.
And that's the news tonight. Good night.
It's Louis. May I come in, Sir William?